The dining room of the Cross estate had never known such a void, not of sound, but of certainty. My father's voice, once a commanding presence that wrapped itself around every conversation like Bradley Ivy, cracked weakly through the speakerphone. The feast was absent. Around the long, elaborately set table, its fine linen stiff with starch and expectation, 20 bewildered relatives stared down at their pristine, untouched china. The gleaming centerpiece, all gold filigree and autumnal flair, now looked absurd, a crown atop an empty kingdom. From the far end, Aunt Laurie's eyes flitted nervously, as if searching the room for answers that would not come. I could almost see the moment recognition struck. 300 meters away, I stood in my kitchen in Boulder, sipping spiced cider, my hand resting lightly on the marble counter, detached from the storm I had quietly summoned. "Oh," I said, my voice laced with quiet amusement. I assumed my presence, and my contributions weren't required. What followed was not just silence, it was vacuum. A thick, uneasy hush fell across 2 cities and generations. Then, the ripple of murmurs began. Through the phone, my mother's voice emerged, a brittle echo. "What on earth does she mean by that?" Bewilderment gave way to rising tension. The very people who had made it clear I wasn't welcome had shown no hesitation in letting me foot the bill for a banquet they'd now failed to receive. "I'm Kathy. 38. The dutiful eldest daughter turned errand runner, confidant, financier. In our family, Thanksgiving wasn't about gratitude, it was a ritual of appearances. Every year we assembled our illusions like centerpieces, all harmony and heirloom recipes, carefully arranged to obscure the resentment beneath. Growing up in Santa Fe, I wasn't nurtured, I was employed. My siblings, golden and guiltless, were cradled in affection. I drove the carpools, packed the lunches, soothed the bruises, and proofed the essays. College offered the illusion of escape. I believed, foolishly, that adulthood would grant me a rightful seat at the table. It didn't. The sting of rejection came days before Thanksgiving 2024. My aunt chirped into the group chat, "Can't wait to see everyone." I responded with the practiced cheer of the uninvited. "Me too. Excited to catch up." And then, nothing. That evening, my cousin messaged me in private, "Wait, are you actually coming? Your parents said you weren't invited this year." The words struck like a slap. I called my mother, stunned. She hesitated, as if hoping I'd spare her the truth, then finally murmured, "We're keeping it intimate this time. Just close family." "I am close family," I replied, the edges of my voice sharpening. She exhaled. It just felt simpler. Less chance of conflict. There had been no conflict, unless saying no to bailing out my brother's latest misadventure, or declining to clean up my sister's overspent wedding fund counted as war. The truth settled slowly, I'd been cut out. Yet, somehow, my credit card had not. The Bradley was brutal. My father had asked me, with casual paternal charm, to help cover a bit of the cost. I hadn't just helped, I had financed the whole operation. I had placed the orders myself, the heirloom turkey from Briar and Glen, the side dishes, the extravagant desserts from Honeyroot Bakery, where my mother once declared the pecan tart life-changing. Every last item was billed to me. They hadn't just overlooked me. They had orchestrated around me. I made 2 calls. The first, to the butcher, ended quickly, a refund approved without hesitation. The bakery hesitated, but a forwarded receipt changed their tune. Then I waited. Thanksgiving Day, 12:17 p.m. My phone lit up. Dad. I let it ring, 4 times, then answered. "There's no food," he said, baffled. Nothing arrived. In the background, voices pitched with urgency, my mother's shrill distress, the metallic clatter of confusion. I pictured the table, guests staring at their empty plates, their hunger now doubled by the awkwardness. I tilted my head, injecting a trace of faux sympathy. "That's strange. Maybe whoever placed the order can check?" "You were the one who placed the order." A pause. Was I? I let the silence expand, cold and deliberate. I didn't think you needed anything. You never confirmed. Later, a message from my cousin confirmed the unraveling. No turkey, no desserts, no salvage. Every grocery in the area had been cleaned out. My sister, hoping to dazzle her new boyfriend, had fled to the guest room in tears. My mother, humiliated, had locked herself in the upstairs bath. My father sat speechless as Uncle Bradley, always the blunderer, blurted, "Didn't Kathy say she was handling the food?" Silence had returned. Then whispers bloomed like mold. 3 days passed. Then, a group message from my mother, "We really missed you at Thanksgiving. Let's move forward." Not an apology. A curtain. A place to hide the shame. I said nothing. Aunt Lori called. Several of us said something, she told me quietly. Your parents needed to hear it. But your mother, she's never accepted consequences gracefully. Sure enough, the narrative shifted within days. I wasn't wounded, I was unstable. I hadn't been excluded, I'd sabotaged the holiday. My father rang twice before I picked up. I don't know what point you were trying to make, he said, his voice brittle with fury, but you humiliated your mother. I let out a low, sharp laugh. Odd. I thought she didn't want me there to begin with. He sighed dramatically. It was a mistake, all right? But you crossed a line. A line? My voice rose. Lower than being uninvited from a dinner I paid for? You're being over-emotional. That word. The knife in my ribs. If it wasn't a big deal, I snapped, why are you still calling about it? I ended the call with shaking hands, my whole body buzzing with the awful electricity of anger denied too long. That night, Isaac texted, "You set something on fire. And I don't think it's going out anytime soon." By the time the remnants of Thanksgiving had cooled, my mother had already begun her quiet campaign, an elegant rebranding of betrayal. According to her, I'd always been delicate, temperamental, difficult. And now? This latest act simply confirmed it. Christmas loomed ahead like a thunderhead. I had no intention of attending, until Aunt Lori called. "She's telling everyone you're emotionally fragile," she said carefully. "That you're avoiding Christmas because you can't handle a tense embradlement. And your father? He's playing the conciliator. Telling people he tried to mend things but you're being obstinate." I gripped the phone tighter, my fingers whitening against its smooth edges. Oh, no. They would not steal my story and recast me as its villain. Christmas Eve, 2024. The Colorado winter air bit at my skin as I stepped through the threshold of my parents' Boulder home, fashionably late and unapologetically present. The moment I crossed the doorway, it was as if the air inside thinned. Voices cut off mid-sentence. My mother froze, her wine glass tilted midair. My father halted mid-sip, brow arched in disbelief. My sister blinked, lips parting as though she were seeing a ghost from Christmases past. "Evening," I said, unwinding my scarf with slow precision. "Merry Christmas." My mother recovered enough to force a brittle smile. "Oh. You made it." "But of course," I replied, sweetly. "Wouldn't dream of missing it." Then I stepped aside. From behind me emerged my guest, her guest. My grandmother. Her mother. The blood drained from my mother's face in a quiet, visible retreat. Years ago, after a falling out steeped in pride and cruelty, she had banished her mother from the narrative of our lives. But I had never played along. I called. I visited. I kept our bond intact. When I told Grandma what had happened at Thanksgiving, she had been incensed. And when I asked her to join me for Christmas, her answer was swift and full of fire. "My goodness," she said now, stepping inside with exaggerated awe, eyes twinkling. "It's been so long. The house looks familiar." "Charming, dear." My mother stood like a statue carved from judgment and disbelief. Dinner was tension masquerading as civility. We carved roast and passed dishes with robotic grace. Then, as Grandma forked a piece of stuffing, she mused aloud, "Store-bought, I imagine." The consistency is just so uniform. I bit my tongue hard to stifle the laughter. In the days that followed, my inbox began to fill. Hey, heard there was some kind of misunderstanding. You doing all right? Others were less subtle. Didn't know you had it in you to be that cruel. It didn't take long for Aunt Lori to call again. She's saying you had a breakdown, she confessed with a weary sigh. She's telling people you're unstable. That what happened at Christmas confirms it. I laughed, the sound brittle. Not shocked. Just tired. If my mother had taught me anything, it was this: truth terrifies those who govern by control. And nothing is more dangerous than a woman who refuses to be rewritten. Later that evening, I called Grandma. She didn't mince words. Your mother's been making her rounds, she said, voice stern. She's telling people she's worried about you. That something's not right. I exhaled sharply. You know that's not true, don't you? Her voice lost its gentleness. Darling, I knew it wasn't true before she even opened her mouth. That night, beneath the golden hush of my Christmas tree, I composed a message to the family group chat. Hi everyone, just wanted to clear up any rumors. I'm doing well. No breakdowns, no drama. It's been a strange holiday, but I'm genuinely in a solid place. Wishing you all peace, health, and a joyful new year. Neutral. Polished. Unspinnable. It was the digital equivalent of smiling through a closed door while flames devoured her fictions. Then, something unexpected happened. My brother Bobby texted me. Hey. Can we talk? We hadn't spoken in months. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I dialed. My heart beat like a Met Bradley-ohm. His voice was hesitant, softer than I remembered. I don't think what Mom did was right. I blinked. You don't? She's good at twisting things, he admitted. I felt weird about Thanksgiving, but Christmas? That's when I saw it clearly. I said nothing, allowing him space. I stayed quiet, he said. Because, well, you know how she gets. Yeah, I said, gently. I know. He hesitated. I should have said something. But for what it's worth, I don't think you're crazy. Not even close. My throat tightened, emotion bubbling to the surface. I hadn't realized how badly I needed those words until they broke me open. Something had shifted. Lori. Grandma. Now Bobby. The grip she'd held on the family was fraying. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. I nearly ignored it. But old habits and older wounds made me answer. Hello? Her voice was a blade, cold and precise. We need to speak. Face to face. Your little performance humiliated me. There it was, not hurt, not let's talk. Just humiliated. Still, always, about optics. Sunday dinner. 6 o'clock, she snapped. Your father and I expect you. Then she hung up. I almost didn't go. But Aunt Lori called. Just hear them out, she urged. You don't owe them forgiveness. But make them say it where you can see their eyes. So I went. The air inside was heavier than memory. The dining room was a courtroom. My father stood like a man waiting for judgment, hands clenched too tightly. My mother sat like a magistrate, arms folded, her expression taut with control. My sister stared at her phone with exaggerated disinterest. Bobby sat on the edge of his seat, his body drawn tight like a bowstring. My mother inhaled, sharp and shallow. Do you even understand what you've done? I tilted my head slightly, as if considering a philosophical puzzle. Which part exactly are you angry about? I asked with measured calm. Was it the cancelled turkey, inviting Grandma to Christmas, or the fact that people finally stopped buying into your version of events? You're always so dramatic, my mother snapped, her voice like glass cracking under pressure. My father interjected, voice low but simmering. Your mother's hurt. And instead of trying to fix things, you've got out of your way to humiliate her. She did that on her own, I replied evenly. I just stopped hiding it for her. My mother's face flushed, a shade between fury and shame. You mean your truth, she said through gritted teeth. Because in my version, you walked away from this family, refused to let go of old wounds, and chose revenge over reconciliation. I leaned forward slightly. Is that what we're calling it? A misunderstanding? You excluded me, then let me bankroll the meal. Then you pretended I didn't exist. We didn't mean to exclude you, she snapped back. We thought it would be simpler. Less tension. But you escalated things. You told people I was unstable. You tried to ruin my reputation. You embarrassed me, she exploded. You humiliated me and Bradley'd of my entire family. And then, unexpectedly, Bobby spoke. Mom, he said, quietly but with a newfound weight, you did exclude her. You told everyone she wasn't coming. You took her money and left her out. That's not okay. She turned to him, eyes sharp. Oh, don't you start too. But he didn't blink. No. You crossed a line. You always do when you're afraid of being W. Bradley. My father shifted awkwardly, clearing his throat. Maybe we didn't handle this the way we should have. My mother turned on him, eyes narrowing. What is that supposed to mean? He paused, then looked at me. Maybe she has a point. The room fell still. But I wasn't done. You didn't just forget me, I said softly. You rewrote me. You told people I was breaking down, that I was unstable. Why, Mom? The silence that followed was long and strange. Then she said it, almost too quietly to hear. Because I was embarrassed. The air left the room. Her words hung there, raw and exposed. For a moment, it looked like even she hadn't expected herself to say them aloud. I didn't know how to explain it to people, she whispered. It got away from me. I didn't want to look like the villain. So you made me the villain, I replied, voice low, steady. That was easier. She had no answer. And in that moment, I watched something shift behind my father's eyes, a subtle unraveling. For the first time, he looked at my mother as though seeing a stranger. Bobby's jaw clenched. Across the table, my sister muttered quietly, wow, as if seeing the entire tapestry of our family lies pulled loose in one breath. The room went quiet, not with tension, but with reckoning. The illusions had shattered. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother clearly, not as a matriarch, not as an invincible force, but as a woman so consumed by the fear of being W. Bradley that she'd sooner burn her daughter than admit the match had been hers all along. I stood up. I'm done, I said, my voice calm and crystalline. I don't need an apology. I don't believe you're capable of giving one. But I need you to understand, I'm finished playing along. She flinched, as if the words struck her across the face. You don't get to just walk away from this, she snapped. I met her eyes. You already did. When you locked me out and blamed me for noticing. You wrote a story where I was the problem. And now that no one's reading it anymore, you're panicking. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. I turned to my father. I know you tried. But you stood by while it happened. And that silence hurt too. He looked down at his clasped hands, saying nothing. My sister finally looked up, guilt tied on her face. I should have spoken up, she said quietly. I knew what was happening. Bobby nodded. Same. I'm sorry. It didn't undo the past. But it mattered. In the weeks that followed, I created space. Real space. The kind you don't announce, you just live inside. Mom's texts came, clipped and shallow. Can we move forward? I left them unread. Aunt Lori stayed close, her support unwavering. Grandma sent a handwritten letter, her script old-fashioned and steady. You didn't burn a bridge, sweetheart. You built a boundary. But the surprise came in January. Bobby messaged me, "Want to grab a coffee?" We met at a quiet cafe on the edge of West Asheville. What was supposed to be a brief chat stretched into 3 hours. "I spent so long just trying to keep the peace," he said, stirring his drink. "I didn't realize how much damage she was doing." I nodded slowly. "I know. I've been there." In that moment, I realized something I hadn't let myself believe: I wasn't alone anymore. If you've ever been the scapegoat, the truth teller in a family addicted to pretending, then you understand this ache. The gaslighting. The guilt. The way it breaks you and then blames you for being broken. You've heard it, "Don't be so sensitive. That's not what happened. Why can't you just let things go?" But here's the truth: sometimes, survival looks like silence. And sometimes, healing begins when you stop apologizing for seeing clearly. The empty chair at their table next Thanksgiving? That won't be a mark of shame. It will be my peace. And if you're reading this and nodding along, maybe it's time you asked yourself, which tables in your life are feeding you, and which ones are just starving you for a love that never really existed? If you've ever been silenced, sidelined, or scapegoated for telling the truth, I want to hear from you. Drop your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's sacred. Choose respect. Choose clarity. And above all, choose yourself. Kathy's story may be settling, but perhaps yours is just beginning.